The Scottish Rite is in Chicago, Illinois for the 2026 Conference of Grand Masters. We're talking with Masonic leaders from around the country and around the world. Recently on our channel, we had a discussion about clandestine masonry. There's a bunch of different ways that people define that. There's unrecognized, and there's a whole video on that. You came from a clandestine branch of masonry, and now you rose to the ranks of the Grand South of the Grand Lodge of New York, which is extraordinary. So tell us your story.
Story's complex, but in college, I was very active in fraternal organizations, and I was supposed to become, I became the charter officer and the founder of my local fraternity. And part of the rules that we had when you are a new member of that collegiate fraternity, you need to know more about the extensive history about fraternalism than anyone else, because you're the first guy,
right?
Or you're in the group of the first guys. So every time I did research, and research was always my thing, I kept finding elements of some discussion or conversation leading folks back from the origins of American fraternalism into Freemasonry. So from there, I was just excited. I soaked up. I'm dating myself, so it wasn't like I can just email it. We were still printing paper out.
Yeah, so and if you don't mind, I don't want to out you. I don't want
No, that's fine.
What year are we talking?
So we're talking about the early '90s. I did all this research, and actually went back home for spring break, and I was telling my mom about all the stuff I was learning and doing the stuff in the fraternity, and she literally says this, old man Jimmy, who lives on the 6th floor in our apartment, was always so excited that you were in college and very proud of what you were accomplishing, but he's a Mason. You should talk to him. So I go and I talk to old man Jimmy, and we sat down for about an hour, and I'm explaining all the stuff that I discovered. And at the end of that conversation, he says, you know more about this thing that I'm a member of than some of the guys I've been with for the past 50 years. And he hands me a petition. I'm like, wow, petition to become a Mason.
Right.
I fill out a petition. It's a local lodge in Queens, New York. Traveled there, and went through the degrees. In like 93, 94, 95, I completed. And then I'm away in college. I made the acquaintance of a brother in Albany, New York. And he said, just come visit the lodge. So I dressed up in my Masonic, suit, had my regalia, had my gloves. I go to the door of the lodge and I knock. And someone came out, said, oh, who are you? I said, Brother Oscar Alleyne, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what Grand Lodge are you from? I have no met you. I go, well, the brother invited me to come. And I said, my Grand Lodge is such and such and such. The moment I said the name of the Grand Lodge, the door shut. Never opened again. And I was resoundingly confused. So a couple of days later, I go back to New York City. I go sit with Jimmy had passed away at the time, but everyone knew that I was Jimmy's candidate. Went to the old guys and said, hey, what just happened? It's like, well, what lodge did you go to? It's like, I met a brother. He said, come to this lodge. I think it's a Prince Hall Lodge. He go, well, yeah, they only want to be, and he was such a disparaging comment. I said, yeah, but you're not explaining what transpired. What happened? You have to explain to me why, if I'm a Mason and I have the ability to travel anywhere, why was I refused? And no one was giving me good answers. So I went back to the one thing that I knew, which was to do research. And I went back to actually the constitutions and the books that describe the history of the Grand Lodge that I was in. And it had founded in New York roughly from 1908. And I found out the guy that formed it was well-known, well-known as the father of Bogus or Clandestine Masonry in the African-American community, John G. Jones. I was a member of this group for 12 years.
Wow.
It takes me 2 more years. Now I'm in Masonic purgatory, if I can call it that, because I know I'm not going back. And it happened that there was a friend of mine who was in the Grand Lodge of New York. The brother cornered me in a room one day at a party and said, I need to talk to you. The thing that you're in, it's not correct. And I said, yeah, I know, I just don't know how to fix it. He goes, for the last year and a half, I was trying to figure out how to engage this conversation with you.
It's such a personal thing. I understand that brother had to have a tough time coming to you.
Yes.
Because it could be damaging to you.
Exactly.
And as a person.
Yeah, and from there, essentially, I said, I don't know how to fix it. He goes, well, This is the process in New York. If you are a member of an unrecognized or clandestine group, you have to sign this form called a renunciation form, where you renounce your membership. It's countersigned by the master and the wardens, and the secretary then sends it to the Grand Lodge. They do a background check, and they issue the lodge a letter back saying, we have cleared this individual to now receive a petition to do the degrees all over again. So I did the degrees all over again. I then decided to create an education and awareness about what it is. And I gave the synopsis comprehensively, and I spoke with other Prince Hall Masons because I do research. And I became, as a result of that, not only within my lodge and my district, I gave this talk all over the world. And I became one of the, I would say earlier, one of the foremost experts on clandestine masonry. But to the point, it's not just to say, hey, your stuff is clandestine, but it's how you message, how you communicate. Some people will accept it. Some people, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to change, And I would say, even if they principally understand the concept and it is making their lives better, so be it. But they just can't be in lodge with me.
I don't think it's a secret that the African American community, if you will, this is more prevalent in that community than in the Grand Lodges of the state. Yeah. So, and that's the question.
Yes,
What's the reason for that?
The reason is truly as a result of the racial segregation and the policies of separate but equal for the beginning of time, unfortunately, in the U.S.
Okay.
So by virtue of when Prince Hall was first formed with respect to the African Lodge number 1, they did have some brothers that interacted with them, but it came to a point where the policies were such that there was no interaction, that social isolation existed. That social isolation and that segregation truly meant that Grand Lodge and all the surrounding Grand Lodges of Prince Hall had to remain separate and isolated from the other realm of Freemasonry. And over the course of time, that led to the proliferation of other groups forming and saying, well, we're black groups, they don't recognize Prince Hall anyway, so what difference does it make? And that's why you see it more pronounced in the African American community. However, we know that clandestine group exists in the Caucasian community.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
We know it does in the Latino community, but it's more pronounced in the African American community by virtue of the fact that those years of social isolation. Now remember, the Grand Lodges of, as we've said, state or even the countries, did not start to recognize formally the Prince Hall Grand Lodges until 1989, when Connecticut said, we're doing this. After Connecticut did it, the United Grand Lodge of England then recognized Massachusetts in 1994. And then subsequently, we see other Grand Lodges in North America doing the same. My own Grand Lodge in New York didn't recognize Prince Hall till 2003. Others, 1999, 2006, as we know, 2026, for some states.
Literally, it just happened as we're recording this.
But that social isolation was what ultimately really fed into the opportunity for other groups to take chance to proliferate. And that's the reason why we see it.
I've seen some of the Grand Lodges, let's call them bogus, I think it's a more accurate term, bogus Grand Lodges. You'll see that they formed only a couple of years ago, and it's in situations where there is already recognition.
Yes.
It looks to me like there gets to be where one legitimate Mason becomes frustrated with his position in lodge. He doesn't feel like he's advanced enough or something like that, or he loses an election, and he says, well, I'm going to take all my friends and we're going to go start a new thing.
And that's unfortunate.
Are we seeing that? Is it ticking up? Is that about the same as it's always been?
I think it's the same as it's always been. I mean, COVID obviously had an impact on Freemasonry as a whole, both from regular and irregular side. As you mentioned, there are those individuals who were never made Masons, who can never become Masons, that decided to start their own stuff. There are others that realize, hey, it may be profitable, I create my own Grand Lodge, so all of a sudden I'm a Grand Master. Others that have said, I've been expelled and I need to be a Mason. And the problem, Maynard, is how easy one can create such an organization. It's not a legitimate organization, but Maynard, you and I can go to the Secretary of State, file a form, spend $300 and create the most virtual Maynard and Oscar Grand Lodge. I'll put you just in case I want you to get in trouble first, not me. So the most virtual Maynard and Oscar Grand Lodge, and all you do is sign a
trademark,
incorporated with the Secretary of State, and you essentially become a corporation and you become a business entity. You say that your business is the creation of Masons. It's not a legitimate charter.
Yeah.
It is not from a competent jurisdiction as we know. It's nothing Masonic. It's a business entity. And you and I then go to McCoy's, or friend Steve, start buying regalia.
Buy everything
we go
they
buy
got.
the stuff. We go buy, Duncan's Ritual from Amazon. We give that out and we say, hey, yeah, we're doing it. We're reading this stuff.
Slap
We're
a square and compass on a building somewhere, and we're good.
But you're no legitimate than the guy off the street that's just like, oh, I bought this shirt at a local Goodwill.
If for folks who are watching, who perhaps we have a lot of people who want to join this movement, who want to become a part of our Masonic family, who want to become a part of this thing that he and I are a part of. So, what are the things that they need to be on the lookout for to make sure that the organization that they're joining, whether it's Prince Hall or the Grand Lodge in their area, whichever it might be?
The thing is, as you mentioned, identify the legitimate Grand Lodges in your jurisdiction, go on their websites. It's really on you to find the right information. And we know the internet is full of wrong information.
Yeah.
So if we can provide the right messages on our own home web pages, as well as use these larger national organizations to help point people in the right direction, I think we'll be in a better frame.
If you, as a Mason, should run into someone who is clandestine, my advice in our last video was, be gentle and whisper good counsel. You don't treat him like a pariah. This is most likely a good man who's been sort of led in the wrong direction, unless he's running one of the scams.
Yeah.
But
even so,
would that be your advice as well? What would you say?
My advice is very simple. How do we greet anyone? With a handshake. Even if we're meeting a brother Mason, we start off with a handshake. Doesn't say what the type of handshake is. You treat people as human beings.
Amen.